Welcome back. I am Carla Estelle, and today I have another helpful hint. This time we're going to be looking at multiplication tables. We're going to leap ahead. We've been working with the younger children and things they may be struggling with, but today we're going to jump into multiplication. And I've got a few handy tricks to teach you with that. But first, we will go back and start out with using our manipulatives. If your child has trouble with multiplication, but they have addition and subtraction down really easy, it would still be good to show them the patterns, because we're going to use the same patterns from subtraction and addition now in multiplication. Now, let me show you one way of how easy it is when you use a pattern. If you look across here real quick and to say, how many buttons are up here on the board? First glance, it'd be hard to know, but if you notice that they are in groups of 4, you could count how many groups, and that would be a multiplication problem. However, there is another way of doing this. Suppose I had set them up not in a straight line. Right, suppose instead of having them in a long line of groups of 4, I had gone ahead and set them up into our pattern. You would immediately see this is a house and an unfinished house. This is a 9. So this math problem would be 9 times 4. Now, that's how you would set up your 9 times 4. Now to get the answer to 9 times 4. When I was learning multiplication, I can remember in the 4th grade, I loved math, but it was very, very hard for me. But still, I would work hard at trying to get those answers. So if I had this problem 9 times 4, this is what I would have done at the side of the page. I would have put 1, 2, 3, 4 9s. And then I would say 9 plus 9, well, that's 18. Another 9 plus 9, that's 18. Then I would add the 18 and 18 together and know that 8 plus 8, that was 16. Somehow learning the doubles is something that kids can catch on to pretty easy. So this would be 36. And that is how I would do every multiplication problem. But using our patterns, this is how you would do it. You notice over here, each of these 5s, we're going to go ahead and start taking the ones from here and turning these 4s into 5s. So there, we've turned those all. And those are 5s. And then we'll go ahead and make this a 5. And we will make this a 6. Then if we were to move this 5 up here, we would see this is a 10, 20, 30, 6. So 4 times 9 is 36. But this is the way that I had done it. So I was not taught to use manipulatives in multiplication. Okay, let's try another one. All right, well now I have a new multiplication problem set up. This time I went ahead and set it in the pattern, so you see it's a 4, and there are 6 in each one. So this is 6 times 4. So again, back in school, this is what I would have done. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 6s. 6 plus 6 is 12. 6 plus 6 is 12. 2 plus 2 is 4. 1 plus 1 is 2. And your answer is 24. So 6 times 4 is 24. It would also work if you did it this way. It's just a little bit more math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 plus 4 is 8. 4 plus 4 is 8. 4 plus 4 is 8. And then you would have to add your 8s. It's easier to just use 4 6s. But with the patterns, it is even easier. If you notice, a 6 if you just take 1 away, it becomes a 5. Take 1 away, and it becomes a 5. Take 1 away, we have another 5, and take 1 away. And then you can easily see your answer. Your answer is 1024. So 6 times 4 is 24. Okay. Now I'm going to set up one more pattern. If you trace around it like this, you will see that you're making an 8. So this is an 8 times 3. There are 3 in every group, and altogether there are 8 groups. And I went ahead and set it in that 8 pattern. So if we were going to, again, this might get a little old, but nevertheless, in school, this is how I would do this one. You could have 3 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And start adding on. That's a 6, a 6, a 6, a 6. Notice we now have 4 6s. 6 and 6 is 12. 6 and 6 is 12. Put it together, and it makes a 24. My math papers would literally be full of this type of stuff all around the edges as I figured out every multiplication problem. Using the manipulatives, again, we would just make 5s. It's a little bit harder because we're dealing with 3s, and 3s need 2 to make a 5. But here's what you would do. You would bring these 2 up, and that's a 5, and put this one down here. Bring these 2 up to make a 5. Bring this one down here. Bring this. So you would separate those 3s to where you're bringing 2 of them up to make 5s, and then make your other 5. So again, you see 1024. Now, this takes a little while. Setting up your pattern, moving it all about, this takes a little while. However, for those children who find memorizing their facts so difficult, this is still a lifesaver because they can find the answer, even if they don't have it memorized. However, for those kids who can memorize, memorizing it is so much easier than going through all this work. So don't worry about, well, if I let my kids use manipulatives, they'll never learn their math, because that's not really true. It's going to be easier for them to memorize the answer than to go through all of this. And the more they go through this, eventually they're going to memorize it. But until they do, go ahead and let them set it up and do the manipulatives. Let's go ahead and do one more. It's real important for the 3s and the 4s to use manipulatives for them. So back in school, what I would have done is made my list of 3s and come up and said 3 plus 3 is 6. 3 plus 3 is 6. Go ahead and say 6 plus 6 is 12. Then these last 3 3s is a 9. And you're adding your 9 plus your 12. 1, carry a 1, and you get 21. Okay. Using the manipulatives, you have it set up in a 7 pattern. You have 3 in each one. And again, we're just going to make 5s. This time, we're going to get rid of this odd one up top here. Because if we can line up our 5s in a pair, we know 2 5s make a 10. So go ahead and take these 2 and bring them down. Bring these 2 and bring them up. And we have 1021. And again, the more your kids work with these manipulatives and lining up all the patterns, eventually they will have them memorized because it is far easier to memorize it. Okay. But for those higher numbers, once you get above your 4s and your 5s, then it can be really hard and time-consuming to do manipulatives. And it's even harder to list out a row of, say, 8 sevens and then add them all up. But I have a handy trick for that. I remember in the 4th grade, my 4th grade teacher came back one Monday and he had gone to a teacher's convention the week before, and he said he had a cool trick to show the class. It took him about 5 to 10 minutes to show us this trick, and most of the students sat there going, boy, that's hard. Boy, that's complicated. Ugh, why would anyone want to do that? And I sat there going, yes, that is so easy. Yes, this makes so much sense. So I'm going to show that trick to you now. Hopefully I can show it to you in about 3 minutes. It starts with 10 fingers. We have a base 10 system in writing, meaning we have 10 digits and then they repeat and start over again. So and we also have 10 fingers. So if we were going to do, say, 7 times 7, well, this is a 7, right? And this would be an 8, and this is a 6, and this was an 8, and this is a 7. This, of course, is 9. So let's do that 7 times 7. Problem is, we only have 2 hands. So this is a 7. Let's pretend like this hand is still there, and let's just call this our 7 times another 7. Now, I do not know why this trick works, but it does. Everything that's standing up is worth 10 points. So in a 7 times 7, you have 10, 20, 30, 40. And everything that's folded down, you multiply. So you do have to know your 3 times 3. So you have 3 times 3 is 9. So 7 times 7 is 49. That is the most amazing thing. And again, I do not know why or how it works. I'm just glad it does work. Let's look at 8 times 8. This would be an 8. So we'll keep our 3 fingers for 8, 3 fingers for 8. Everything standing up is 10 points. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So we have 60, and what's folded down you multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. 8 times 8 is 64. All right, let's try one more, and then you see if you can do a few. Let's do 6 times 8. Well, here's our 6. So let's pretend like that hand is still there and use just the 1 for a 6 times 8. What's standing up? What do? We count by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40. Those folded down, we multiply. We have 4 times 2, which is 8. So it's 48. 6 times 8 is 48. All right, the hardest one is 6 times 7. And let me show you why. Here's our 6. Here's our 7. When you put them together, 6 times 7, you've got 10, 20, 30. Uh-oh. Now we have to know 4 times 3. And 4 times 3, I don't know why, but it's one of the hardest multiplication for kids to memorize, it seems. So let's look at this real quick on manipulatives. So here we have 4 times 3, or 3 times 4, which is the same thing. We've got 3 groups of 4. Let's take this last one, make that a 5, make that a 5, and our answer is 10, 12. So 4 times 3 is 12. Now let's go back to our hands. We had a 6 and a 7. We have 30. 4 times 3 is 12. Now what you have to do is add 30 plus 12. And for a lot of kids, that means writing it 30 plus 12. But then it's real easy to see that it's 42. See, especially if you are dyslexic, a dyslexic child does not have a chalkboard in their mind. They can't just write numbers in their head and see those numbers there, or write out words in their head and see those. Instead, they have an art easel. They are very creative. They can see pictures, they can see shapes, but it's very hard to keep numbers or letters in their head. And that is why so many times they have to write it down to actually see it, because they can't just write it in their mind's eye and see it. So let them have that scratch paper, let them write them down and see it. Eventually they'll memorize it, but until then, they write it down. So again, here was that hardest one, is a 6 times a 7. And it's so hard because you have so many fingers folded down. So you have your 30, and then you have to know 4 times 3, and 4 times 3 is your 12, and now you have to add 30 plus 12. And you get 42. All right, so try that out. If there's anything I went too fast and you need me to show you some more examples, I'll be glad to come back and show you some more. Next week, I think I'm going to go ahead and go to division. So practice this through the week. And please subscribe to these if you want to keep getting them every week in your mailbox. And also, if you'll make some comments and spread the word, especially if it has helped you. There's some other kids out there who might need help as well. Till next time, see you later.